Shalom, everybody. Today, the message is from Korach. And thank you, Mauricio, for this beautiful message, which I will now read to you. You entitled it from the book of Job, 15:12. What does your heart tell you, and what do your eyes suggest? This week, we're studying Parashat Korach. Korach was a Levite, a member of the distinguished Kohat family. This clan had been given the highest honor among the Levites, the sacred responsibility of transporting all the holy objects pertaining to the Holy of Holies, the Ark of the Covenant, the altar of incense, the table of showbread, and the golden menorah. They didn't just move them, they cared for them and preserved their sanctity. Korach was not only part of this honored lineage, he was also Moshe's cousin. And according to the Midrashim, he was a man of great wealth and prominence. Yet our portion centers around his rebellion. Korach challenged Moshe's leadership, and more pointedly, the divine selection of Aaron as high priest. He was soon joined by others, Datan and Abiram from the tribe of Reuben, and eventually 250 prominent men of the community. They all rose in protest and even dared to offer incense, ketoret, before the Eternal, a sacred act reserved for the descendants of Aaron. The outcome was devastating. The earth opened and swallowed Korach and his household, who descended to Sheol. The 250 leaders who had offered incense were consumed by fire. Later, when a plague broke out among the people, it was ironically Aaron who stopped it by offering incense and standing between the living and the dead. To confirm whom God had chosen, once and for all, he instructed the 12 tribal leaders to bring their staffs. Miraculously, it was Aaron's staff that blossomed, producing almonds, thus confirming his appointment to the priesthood. The message? Leadership is not seized, it is given by God. Now let's take a deeper look. Numbers 3:17 tells us, and these were the sons of Levi by name, Gershon, Kahat, and Merari. But the most sacred tasks were assigned to Kahat's descendants. Numbers 3:19 explains, and the sons of Kahat, according to their families, were Amram and Itzchar, Hebron, and Uziel. As Shemot, Exodus 6 describes, Amram married Yocheved, from whom Miriam, Aaron, and Moshe were born, making Korach Moshe's first cousin. Shemot 6:21-22 says, the sons of Yitzchar were Korach, Nepheg, and Zichri. The sons of Uziel were Mishael, Elzaphan, and Sitri. Bamidbar 3:29-30 says, the families of the sons of Kahat shall camp at the side of the tabernacle on the south side, and the prince of the father's house of the families of Kohat shall be Elzaphan, son of Uziel. Notice that the Eternal decided to appoint Elzaphan, the second son of Uziel, as prince of Kahat. Uziel was the third son of Kahat, who chronologically, those who should have held the position after Amram were Itzhar's son. Korach would have been next in line had it been a system of monarchy, since he was Itzhar's firstborn. Yet in Numbers 3:30, we see something surprising. God appoints Elzaphan, son of Uziel, the youngest of Kahat's sons, as prince over the Kohatites. In other words, Korach was bypassed in favor of someone from a lesser branch of the family. This detail sets the stage. Because while Korach had every spiritual and social privilege, what gnawed at him was this: Why not me? The opening line of our portion says, Vayikach Korach ben Yitzchar ben Kahat ben Levi v'Datan ve'Aviram b'nei Eliav ve'On ben Pelach b'nei Reuven. And he took to himself Korach, sons of Yitzchar, son of Kohat, son of Levi, and Etam and Aviram, son of Eliav, and On, son of Pelet, who were of the tribe of Reuben. Midrash Tanchuma asks, what did he take? He took himself. He separated himself from the community to challenge the leadership. And the meaning of Onkelo's translation of he separated himself from which is ve'it paleg, from the rest, to separate himself from the rest of the community, indicates a move toward conflict. Similarly, we find, how does your heart lead you? Does it lead you to be separated from others? It also explains Korach took, as he persuaded the heads of the court among them. This denotes that taking for oneself is the opposite of chesed, kindness. That's how our parasha ends. How? With giving. The people were to give the Kohanim a terumah, an elevation offering, from each harvest of grain, wine, oil, cattle, and sheep, and other special gifts. In other words, the vaccine against Korach is giving. Taking for myself implies a very strong connection to material things, whether a position, financial compensation, or praise, and one's ego. Korach's downfall wasn't simply ambition, it was intention. At what point did Korach act against the Eternal's decision? According to him, to place someone of lower rank in a position of greater distinction. Well, let's go to the portion Shalach Lecha in Bamidbar 14:1-2, where the scouts had brought back a report that triggered the following. Then the whole congregation stood up, lifted their voices, and the people wept all that night. And all the children of Israel grumbled against Moshe and Aaron. And all the congregation said to them, would that we had died in the land of Egypt, or would that we had died in this wilderness. Something else could have motivated Korach to rise up. It says in Bamidbar 14:4, then he said, every man to his companion, let us choose a leader and return to Egypt. And the whole congregation considered stoning them. As a result of this complaint and pronouncement by the people, God became angry and issued a judgment described in Bamidbar 14. None of them shall see the land that I swore to their fathers, nor shall any of those who have provoked me see it. Your carcasses will fall in the desert, all of you who were numbered according to the census taken from 20 years old and up, all of you who have murmured against me. Surely you shall not enter the land. This harsh sentence caused the people to think that they could ingratiate themselves before the Borei Olam and get him to reverse his decision. They did not accept divine justice and forgiveness and made the mistake of one nail drives out another nail, an expression that teaches us that sometimes we try to correct one mistake by making another. So they ascended to Hormah and were defeated. This was the lowest point of Moshe's popularity. At a time when his leadership was at his weakest, Korach rose up. During the not-so-good times in our lives, the Korachs rise up, seduced by their visual agnosia, their inability to recognize reality and distort it in order to conveniently convey what they think they see. The Midrash says, now Korach was a bad business deal for him, having been persuaded by his wife. In the camp, how the tribes and clans of Levi had been distributed, the sons of Reuben were intermingled with the sons of Kehat. In other words, the perfect combination to take advantage of the situation. While Korach's desire may have seemed right to him, his way of doing and requesting things was not the best, since, as Moshe correctly interpreted, he went against Aaron because he believed it to be nepotism. In contrast, the sons of Reuben, Jacob's first son, wanted Moshe's leadership, his position, which he viewed as royalty. So they distorted the words of the Eternal, expounding seemingly correct words but taken out of context. Today we see content creators who take events, reports, and statements out of context to create chaos. And that's what happens. Lashon hara produces chaos. Korach was a very good promoter and a marketing specialist. He had the skill to persuade the people that the leaders accompanying him were of high standing. It says he took 250 renowned men with him. But God doesn't look at renown. He sees whether the leaders are righteousness, tzaddikim, or not. In other words, having a reputation or being a famous actor means nothing to the Eternal. We elect leaders based on popularity. I've seen many leaders and politicians win, judged by, with whom would you sit down and have a drink? However, when they get into power, they're a disaster. Look at the Ayatollahs, the Chavistas, Ortega, among so many others who come into power through lies. And when they get elected, they only look out for number one. When our intentions are solely focused on ourselves and not on serving God and our fellow man, chaos ensues. According to the Midrashim, On was saved by his wife, and God didn't elect Korach from the earth. We know that his descendants were saved since the prophet Samuel was descended from him, and his sons were composers of some of the psalms sung in the temple. Of the 250 men of renown, we don't even know who they are, because what is important to man is of no concern to the Eternal. He sees the heart and judges our intention. Moses was a man of great merit. He wanted to resolve and bring Korach and the mutineers to reason, but he was unable to prevent God's judgment and subsequent sentence upon them. Aaron remained calm without trying to justify himself to others. And finally, we see how the tongue can either destroy or build up. Perhaps things aren't going your way today. Maybe your boss chose someone else for a position you wanted. Maybe you don't feel valued, like Korach. But let's be careful about what our eyes interpret by making snap judgments without thorough investigation, or what our heart tells us, because the heart can be deceitful. My prayer this Shabbat is that we may be grateful for our role in life, thankful for the good and the seemingly bad, and that we may be a source of chesed, grace, mercy, and loving kindness to all. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Mauricio, for your message. You know, when I was looking, you gave a lot of detail. And when I was looking at it, Korach broke the last 5 commandments. Actually, he broke them all. He adulterated the word of God. He spoke Lashon Hara. He coveted a position that didn't belong to him. he murdered, he assassinated the reputation of Moses and Aaron. He was like, we have to be really careful. So would you like to clarify some of the points? I know you worked hard on this message. Could you please give us a little more clarity from what you saw?
Okay. Well, first, I gotta leave right now, very soon because I have to pick up my kid. He's right now helping as English professor or teacher right now. So that is something good. But by the way, yes, I would like to add some of this message because the 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 point is when you heal. Okay, let me put this. Okay, uh, there are some generation sins that need to be cut. Okay, in this case, you can see Reuben. Is it seems that Reuben never healed himself what he did to his father, and this seed goes through different generations until this moment that the sons of Reuben wanted wanted uh, the leadership of Moses. Why? Because they saw themselves as the firstborn
Right.
who had the right to leader the whole congregation. So, and this is something that sometimes people do not understand because, for example, I have seen many people that in so many generations they are carrying not really curses, but they are uh, really do not uh, super. I don't know how to say that. They do not page the they do not uh, move the page just because they are living. Oh, my granddad had this problem, and they hate with another person. Or, for example, the Quinteros cannot see, for example, the Pardos. Okay, so in this thing, honestly, probably we don't see, but it's very common.
Right.
No,
John
Eh,
curses. Yes.
yes. In for example, you can see things like, oh, my dad used to be alcoholic. Then the son, then my sons, then my grandsons, etc. So people is just carrying the past,
Right.
and God as the God of, okay, as you can see also in this portion, not necessarily the sins of the fathers goes to the children,
Right.
like we see in the case of Korach.
Right.
Korach just descended to the Sheol alone. Okay, so uh, in this is time to cut this generational, okay,
Curse.
curse. Okay,
Habits.
this, yes. Eh, I cannot get out from poverty. I cannot get out from uh I, I never studied. uh I never had the capacity to have a good marriage, things like that.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
so if you are the first person in your family to cut the this kind of courses, then you are a blessing.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is one of the very first things I want to give. The second thing is is that uh, sometimes we see things and we as human tend to judge without
Right.
knowing what is behind.
Right.
Okay, that is why Job started and see in he said, okay, what your eyes looking? Okay, so sometimes our eyes distort the reality. That is why I use the agnosia, visual agnosia, which is okay. This is the in medicine. This kind of person, they can see. They have a good eyes. They can see. Okay, they are healthy in the eyes,
Visually.
the nervous, visually, etc. So it's normal. But the problem is that that what they transmit from the nerve to the brain is distorted. For example, they can see this box, okay, like a round, okay, a circle, not really like a box, okay. So, but if you go medically to make measurements of how the eyes is working, the eyes really see that this is like a box, it's not a circle. The problem is the transmission to the brain. Okay, the brain is the heart. So
Mhm.
sometimes, for example, in the case of Moses and Aaron and the sons of Aaron, okay, it looks like nepotism, okay.
Right.
So because your you know the Amram brothers, that family, they wanted the power, okay. If Moses, Aaron, and Miriam today would would be as the state rulers of El Salvador, for example, easily people will go to the streets and protest against them because they will say, oh, Moses is the president, then Aaron is the prime minister, and Miriam is the prophetess. So, you know, apparently these guys, they wanted the power for from themselves. Important because Moses, as he mentioned, I never took not even a donkey. Okay, what was a donkey at that moment? Was a resource of healthy, wealthy. Why? Because that was like a machine to work. Okay, so the productivity, but also you know also Moses is saying, I am honest. I never took a penny from you, from all you guys. In today's, we cannot say that one president in this world today has took any penny from people, from themselves. Okay. Yeah, probably they are not going, to the arcs of the state and get out a truck. No, but they know, for example, information. Okay. So they buy, uh, for example, they buy some uh, resources from the state very cheap,
Right.
and the same government finance them. That is a thief. Okay, that is wrong. Okay, you know how many people, for example, I can tell you, just in my country, okay, Many people, we call them ladrones cuello blanco, which means thief of white. Uh, how do you say that from the t-shirt?
White collar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but you know why? Because they what they do is that, oh, we donate our salary, okay, but for example, I'm gonna give you the information, for example, to anybody, give me $1 million cash, put in Panama, for example, so nobody knows. Yeah, they are donating. They are a good name person, but they are not sadiqing. So, uh, and this is something that you know, Korach knew he had the power. He had a lot of persons who wanted to follow him. Okay, but people can see, uh, because people really do not defend at all to Korach, but they also defend Moses, for example. So this is something also for the leadership. Sometimes you are alone. Do not expect people will save you when bad times comes. For that reason, says the Lord, I am your savior. Okay, I am healing you. I am the one who protects you. No, it's not me. Okay, and and at the end, I also wanted to add something else. Um, and this is about the you know apparently Korach wanted something good. He wants to serve God, but God did not choose him for that role. He wanted to be happy. Moses tried and called him, hey, Korach, come. It's not good enough that God allowed you to be in that position. Mhm. And also, what else God made Moses? He tried to convince Reuben's sons to repent themselves. So God is using Moses to prevent, to save them, because God doesn't want to destroy them. And that the saddest part is that they already saw what God did to the sons of Aaron for offering Ketoret not allowed, strange fire. What he did, he, they died. Okay, a born says that that killed them. And now the 250 men, what they did, made the same mistake. It's like, oh no, we are better than the son of Aaron. So we're gonna offer Ketoret, and then what happened to them? A fire consumed them. So they died. So uh, right now it comes to my mind that I think Samuel said that rebellion is worst. Okay.
And with
Eh,
witchcraft.
yes.
It's like
Why?
witchcraft.
Yes. Because you are like, oh no, I am doing the things good, and everybody is telling you, hey, don't try, don't try, don't try. But we are thinking, oh no, I am the best one. I'm gonna do something different right now. So sometimes is lack of you know humble humbleness, and that you need in your side.
Exactly. Beautiful.
Is this the guy who made curses against the Jewish people?
What are you talking about, Brian?
This guy, this story, this person.
No, no, you're talking about Bilam and Bilak. Balaam. No, this is Korach. Korach
Korach.
held against Moses.
Moses. Well, did they say he was a good guy? Over
Who's
here, these people here say he was a good guy.
really?
Yeah,
Where did you hear that?
went to the service.
They said Korach was a good guy?
Yeah,
Really? Interesting. Huh. You see, different perspective.
Who said that?
When
Who,
they
Brian?
some
People-
guy spoke up for the rabbi, like say couldn't talk, and some guy make a little speech, and he talked about this guy. He was saying he was a good guy, and according to us, making curses against us. Right?
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't there, so I can't unless you recorded it. I
Yeah, I got a recording.
okay. Aha. Miriam, do you have any perspective?
It's just what's been said already, how even in our own lives, so often that you see what's called sibling rivalry, things like that. Why, when somebody seems to be treated differently or whatever, and sometimes it's true, it's bad, whatever, but generally we want sometimes things that we're not meant to have, or we don't have the gifts. We all have different gifts, and we tend to make a hierarchy. This one is better than that. And yeah, we see that in our own lives. I see that in so many of my jobs. I saw the rivalry, even on a small level. I remember when in this restaurant, and this guy became a manager, and you could just see it was because he had such a power hungry thing. He was so power hungry, and he had no gifts of management. He was just totally like a whip. He was terrible, and everyone disliked him. But he grabbed this thing and he abused his small position, and eventually, I don't know if he got fired. I don't remember what happened, but you see that in everyday life too, and it's like a cancer sometimes. This kind of rivalry for power, or why were you given this and not me, and blah blah blah.
Exactly. There's also these generational curses that he spoke about. I remember my father, there were four in his family, and he only had, I only remember one sister coming to visit us. She was a concert pianist. She would come and play beautiful music for us.
Father's sister was a concert pianist.
Yeah, she taught piano also.
Wow.
Yeah, and then he had a brother who was an opera singer. And he had another sister who I met when I was at Maimonides, when I first started singing at Maimonides.
Wow, it's in the family.
I met her there, but my father didn't talk to them. His brother lived in a house behind, his backyard faced our backyard. They connected, and I never knew him. And I remember saying that I will never allow that to happen in my family. I will not allow my brother and my sister and I, even if we disagree, even if we're fighting, even if we're screaming each other and hating each other, not to talk to each other. People have lost their families in the Holocaust, and we don't have a right to do that in our own families. I mean, we get upset with our kids. Sometimes I don't even want to talk to them forever. I get so upset with my kids, but I will never, never break contact in my family. We have to find ways to work things through, and that's and what he said about these different type of curses, like just because my father was an alcoholic doesn't mean that I have to be an alcoholic, or there's different things that he said. My father was poor, so I have to be poor. These are ideas that are that come from a warped way of thinking. They do not necessarily have to be brought down to the next
Well,
generation.
especially if God is in your life, you might have.
Because God is in our life. Because God is in our life.
Yes, right. What I mean is, because God is in your life, the curse might be there, like a tendency to, it might even be in your genes, but it's through God that the curse can be broken.
Exactly.
You might have they believe that there is a genetic tendency towards alcoholism, but it doesn't mean that you have to become an alcoholic because you have that gene. But without God, it's even probable that you will become an alcoholic. But God,
because you copy the patterns. You follow.
What's this?
You copy the patterns. It's like, you mimic patterns that were handed down, and the behavior is taught, like
But it's more than that. There is I know it. Oh, sorry, I cut you off.
Well, it's probably both.
Yeah, they both work together. It's a.
I cannot speak to genes because I have not been involved in genetics, so I don't know that. All I know is that curses can be broken.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. That even when you have that in your family, and the tendency for somebody with that gene to become an alcoholic is very strong, but with God, you don't have to become an alcoholic.
I hear what you're saying. I don't know if it's the truth or not because I've never studied genes. So I don't know.
Well, but I think
Made up
why is that? It's not just a political thing about genetics. There is the brain, the same with mental illness. Bipolar is almost, that was the first thing that they saw, a brain, but it doesn't mean that any of these things have to be your destiny.
Right.
With God, the curse can be broken. That's all I'm saying.
Exactly, which is beautiful. And what else did he say? It's interesting, even he talked about this idea of royalty and nepotism. The entire royal family in Europe, Russia, Germany, they were all related. They were all cousins, all brothers and sisters, and it's like taking power over the world. Today, I really so we see that as a reality also. And anyways, it was a good message. I like the thing that he said is don't uh, don't judge what your eyes see, because we really don't know, and that's something very difficult. I struggle with that all the time because I see a scenario, something going on, and right away I think I know what's happening, and I don't. Honestly, how can we know what's going on in the lives of another family or in the lives of another person? We judging without knowing is a very difficult thing. Only God can know everything that's going on. We can't. So that's why we have to break that. That's a curse. Always thinking that that you become a judge of everybody, and it's really it's wrong. We have to always ask God to show us what's happening and to break that in us. So that was a good message on Korach, and I'm glad that Mauricio was able to clarify some of these things for us. Does anyone have any other perspective on it? And did you learn something that you could share today? All right, the silent majority wins. And I want to thank everybody for joining our service today, and pray that we would have really a special week, a wonderful week. Let's break the family curses in our families. Let's learn how to be a blessing instead of repeating these generational, he called it sins or curses, because they can be broken. We just have to ask God to help us. And that's a daily battle, a daily struggle. And once we do, our lives, then we can step into the position that God has for us. Each and every one of us has a role in this great plan of God's. No matter how small we think we are, every one of us and is important. It has value. You know, when we see Korach, we thought his whole family died, and yet when you read the Psalms, you see the sons of Korach wrote Psalms. So there's hope for every one of us. Anyway, God bless you. Love you all.
Love you all too.
Have a wonderful day, a wonderful rest of your Shabbat. And we will see you again, God willing, next week.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat
Shabbat
shalom.
Shabbat shalom y Shavuot tov.
Shabbat tov.